What's going on, guys? So today we're looking at three different Leatherman multi-tools that in a first glance look identical to each other, but they're all a little bit different. We have the Leatherman Kick, the Leatherman Fuse, and the Leatherman Blast. So essentially these are tools from Leatherman, all right, and they one thing they all have in common is the handles. Okay, the handles have these finger grooves in them. It's basically like a plastic body, all right, or an insert that goes inside of the metal handles, all right, and it adds for a little bit of a better ergonomic experience. Okay, instead of squeezing metal, you're squeezing the plastic, and in some cases, depending on how you grip it, the fingers do land in these different grooves that are on the handles. All right. Now, I love the idea of having finger grooves to make it a little more comfortable. On this side, you can feel some of those grooves, but I do have a gripe, all right, which some people may already see. You can see the back of the blade, the spine of the blade here, okay, protrudes out past the grooves a little bit. So it kind of defeats the entire purpose. I mean, you're going to use the pliers here. That's what the handle grips are for, right? Let me back this out a little bit. So if I want to use the pliers, I'm squeezing down. It feels good in some areas, but you know, I can still feel the back of the spine there, all right? And I'm not going to take the blade out, all right, as well as other tools in order to grip it. You know what I'm saying? Like this feels really comfortable because my fingers are actually landing in the grooves where they're supposed to be, right? But I'm not going to have a blade exposed while I'm using the pliers. So it seems kind of silly. However, like let's say, let me take this back out actually. Once you take the blade out, all right, and you close the knife, now you can see the grooves are on the inside. So I'm using the knife, which is comfortable. I don't need the grooves on the outside, but they're on the inside. So those grooves are literally only for extra comfort when you're using the pliers, but the tools, some of the tools in some of these cases are sticking up past the groove. So obviously that's just a very small gripe. You do feel a little bit more comfort on the edges on both sides, and like I said, in spots that are higher up where the tools aren't protruding out. And it is a little different because these have a couple different tool setups on the inside. But just in using these, just real quick, they do feel just a little bit more comfortable than some of the other Leatherman models that don't have these inserts. All right, so I took all the individual tools out of the multi-tool so you can kind of get a comparison between them. So we're going to start here with the kick. All right, so obviously besides the pliers, which is the main tool, on the left handle here we have a can opener, all right, as well as a Phillips screwdriver. The Phillips screwdriver is really nice. I do like these. They're very precision made. And on the right handle here, we have our main blade, okay, which is a plain edge blade. We have a small flathead. We have a large flathead, or wider flathead, I should say. And then we have this little ring tool here on the bottom, which is so you can throw a lantern on this if you wanted to, all right? So that is the kick. Now we move up to the fuse. The fuse has, on the left handle, the same can opener, the same Phillips head screwdriver, but the addition of a pair of scissors, which is super handy. All right. You look on the right hand side, we have the same blade, the same small flathead, or yeah, flathead, the same wider flathead, and the same lanyard hole, right? So the only difference between a Leatherman fuse and a Leatherman kick is the addition of the scissors. That is it. So if you have a kick and you thought, wow, I really love to have scissors, you'd want to get a Leatherman fuse. And if you have a Leatherman fuse and think, well, you know, I don't need these scissors, not that it really matters, it's not taking up extra room, these are pretty much the same size, but you would get a Leatherman kick. I don't know the difference on the original price tags for these. I don't know if they charge an extra $5 for this, if it was the same price, if it was $20 more, I don't really know. But it is kind of interesting that you literally are adding one tool to it and then it's a whole different name, right? So now we're upgrading quite a bit though from the fuse to the blast. Taking a look at the blast here, we have we'll start on the left here, the same can opener, the same Phillips head screwdriver, the same scissors that you're going to get in the fuse, but the addition of a file, okay, which is really nice. On the right hand side, we have the same blade, the same small flathead, the same large flathead, the same lanyard hole on the back, but the addition of a saw blade as well as the micro screwdriver. All right, so this has a very tiny Phillips, and you can pull this out. All right, and you have a very tiny flathead on the back as well. So that's literally the difference between all three of these models, is just the addition of the tools in the fuse and the blast. All right, so if you have a Leatherman kick, and you love it and you want scissors, you get the fuse. If you love the fuse and you want an extra micro screwdriver, a saw blade, and a file, then you get the Blast. And that's pretty much it. Now, all three of these are harder to get these days. Might not be very popular models, as some of them, if not all three, are discontinued at this point. But I thought they're really cool. It is a really interesting model. I kind of feel like if you're going to have the size and weight of a multi-tool, you just might as well skip these two and go right for the one that has the most tools. Now, when it comes to multi-tools in general, I always recommend people get the biggest one that they're going to actually use all the tools in. And what I mean by that is, like, especially with Victorinox knives, you know, Swiss Army knives, people always ask, you know, which one should I carry? I kind of like this one, but it's really big. It's also more expensive. The bigger it is, the more tools, the more expensive. Now, obviously, the Blast was a different price than the Kick for sure. I don't, again, recall the exact prices when these were available, but because it has more tools, it is more expensive. But I always recommend to people to get the biggest tool that they're actually going to use this stuff inside, because I know people who carry very large Victorinox Swiss Army knives and they only use the blade. Like, why? Just carry a small little blade if that's all you're going to use. You know, I know people who carry full-size multi-tools like this and they never use the pliers. They're only using like the scissors and the blade. Again, there's other tools that just have scissors and a blade if that's what you only use, right? So it's nice to have options, but oftentimes people are in different situations where they're just not using these extra tools. So it doesn't really make sense to have something with a bunch of different options there. That's why they have smaller models here, right? But at the same time, when you're talking about a full-size plier multi-tool, it's already large. You know what I'm saying? The difference between the Blast and the Kick as far as weight and size is negligible. I would definitely recommend, if you were going to pick between them, pick the one with all the tools, right? Even if you're not using it mostly, that one time you need a saw or you need a file or maybe you need a really tiny little Phillips head or flathead or something, it's nice that it's there. You know, you're not gaining that much from the less weight of the smaller model, if that makes sense. So when it comes to multi-tools, there are a multitude of multi-tools. That's right, there's a lot of options out there in the market, and there's different reasons why you might get different ones, but you know, the different tools, the individual tools that are in there could make or break that multi-tool for you. If in your particular situation you do a lot of sawing, you know, you're really going to want a saw in there, you know. Most times they will always have a blade, they'll always have some kind of flathead screwdriver, sometimes they'll have a Phillips, sometimes they'll have scissors, you know, these other little tools. But it just really comes down to your personal needs. And if you want to be extra prepared and have those extra tools in there, whether you need them or not, that's up to you. So there they are, all closed up. And again, you can see the difference between the Kick and the fuse is nothing. It's the same width, all right? It's so close in weight. Obviously, we know now that there's only the addition of the scissors in here. Carrying the two of these, it doesn't really make a difference. I don't see a good reason why you'd have a Kick unless a fuse wasn't available to purchase. You know what I'm saying? Why not have the extra scissors? Now, going from the fuse to the Blast, yes, it is a little bit different. It is a wider tool. It is a little bit of a heavier tool. But again, in the grand scheme of things, if I handed these two to someone, most people wouldn't be able to tell which one's heavier. They really, it's negligible. You're talking about probably less than an ounce, maybe an ounce. Most people won't tell the difference. And as far as, you know, the length and width and stuff, it doesn't matter that much. Everyone's going to throw this in a pocket or throw it in a pouch or something like that. It's not going to make that much difference. So in my opinion, why not just have all the extra tools? Now, something else definitely worth noting is that on both the Blast and the fuse, the inner tools do lock. All right, you can see these locking mechanisms on the side, which work like a back lock or a lock back, whereas the Kick does not. Okay, that's another consideration. There's no locking tools. So let's say you want to take out your blade, all right, which is right here. All right. There's no actual lock that's going to keep this from folding when using it. Now, again, keep in mind, you're going to put all your pressure on the edge. So the only time you would need a lock is if you bumped it on something. And in this particular case, because it's not a folding knife, if you had a regular folding knife and it folds, obviously it can cut you. But on a multi-tool, even if it does happen to fold, it's only going to stop there, okay? It's not even going to damage the blade because the bottom of the blade there that's not sharpened, obviously the ricasso area, is going to come in contact with the other handle, okay? So it's not the end of the world that this doesn't lock. Any tool you take out individually, close the handles, it's going to be fine to use. But it is, again, worth noting, if you have to use these really, really hard, that these other two models, the Blast and the Fuse, do have locking blades and locking tools, all right? To unlock them, you're just going to push on the back here, All right, you can see all the tools have a little notch cut out in the bottom, and this whole piece here just, you know, fits into the back there. So you can hear that lock. All right, so I mean, it's a minor detail, but it is worth noting. Some people who do use their multi-tools day in and day out for their profession or their job or something, they do like to have locking tools because they are using them a lot, and you don't want them folding in the middle of a job. You know, even like a screwdriver. As you're using a screwdriver, you're turning, you're rotating, or you know, you don't want it just constantly popping out because the actual tool is able to wiggle a little bit. All right, so it's another consideration. So just wanted to compare all three of these models because they can be quite confusing. They all really do look identical, especially the fuse and the kick together. The only addition is the scissors in there, and some people might not even notice that. You might really scratch your head and think, well, what's the difference? It looks like the same tool. The Blast obviously has enough, you know, extra tools in there to differentiate between the other two. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know down in the comment section if you have any one of these Leathermans, if you've been using them for a while. These are new to me. I've known they existed, but I haven't had them before until I just recently did a trade and actually did carry the Blast. I didn't really use many of the tools. I just happened to carry it. I didn't have a need for a multi-tool the times I carried it, but it carries like any other multi-tool. You know, it's just nice to have the extra tools in there, you know, just in case you need them. You never know. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you have an awesome day. Let me know down in the comment section, not only do you own one of these, but if you don't, what is the multi-tool that you carry every day? Now, of course, I have a variety of different multi-tools myself, and I don't always carry one every day. My go-to, which I've mentioned many times before, has been the Victorinox SwissTool. I just love it. However, I do go back and forth between a lot of different Leatherman models. Happens to be just an awesome company with a lot of great offerings out there. As far as an affordable one, I've always liked the Wingman. It's always been my favorite. And I say affordable, but they're still like, you know, 50, 60 bucks. The Leatherman Wave has always been classic. I carried that for many, many years before I even knew about the Wingman or before it was even in existence. But there's just so many different multi-tools that are awesome. But those are just a couple ones that I've used consistently. So anyway, that is it for now. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.